Dr. Richard Allen Miller, Ph.D. Miller and Morris Associates ACE Metaphysical Group ACO Club, ACO Association, ACO International Theresa J Morris Agency, Oak Publishing American Communications Online presents Ascension Cosmos Oracles Corp. Meet T.J. Morris Agency, owned by a woman veteran. Theresa J. Morris, entrepreneur, author, speaker, psychic medium, spiritual counselor for Ascension Cosmos Oracles Corp. Theresa goes by TJ or Taj or Tara in the spiritual world. She is a mage and sage elder in our spiritual community and began the Lightworkers and Truthseekers World Access Online using the words since 1989-1990 with the acceleration of tachyon energy for future of psychic synergy integration. Train the trainers psychic integration process of Stargate projects. Theresa has brands as ACE, ACO, ACIR acronyms with her official name brand as TJ Morris in USA as of March 8, 2000. At her marriage to agent Thomas R. Morris, former intelligence, DOACIA, 1959–2015. Theresa J. Thurman Thomas married and began helping Thomas and the American veterans in Ohio County, Kentucky, USA, where they bought a cedarwood home in the country. Thomas was called Tom Morris and loved the song by Lee Greenwood, "Proud to be an American." Lyrics: if tomorrow all the things were gone I worked for all my life and I had to start again with just my children and my wife, I'd thank my lucky stars to be living here today. Cause the flag still stands for freedom and they can't take that away, and I'm proud to be an American where at least I know I'm free, and I won't forget the men who died who gave that right to me, and I'd gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston and New York to LA. Well, there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and speak that I'm proud to be an American where at least I know I'm free, and I won't forget the men who died who gave that right to me, and I'd gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. Love this land. God bless the USA, and I'm proud to be an American where at least I know I'm free, and I won't forget the men who died who gave that right to me, and I'd gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. Love this land. God bless the USA. Source: Ma6 Match Songwriters, Lee Greenwood. God bless the USA. Lyrics copyright Cedarwood Publishing. Songs of Universal Inc., Universal Songs of Polygram Inc. Greenwood Legacy Music. Theresa was asked to continue Thomas R. Morris's family legacy in the ministry by Tom's grandfather, Pastor John Crystal Morris, who was honored as a Kentucky colonel by the community and state at his age of 108 years. Tom asked his grandfather to not authorize her, but Grandpa Morris, as he was called, said he was moved and inspired by Theresa's spirit and knows she is a strong woman and continue his ministry of faith. Tom's father and uncle were also ordained ministers. Tom, as an intelligence agent, never chose the spiritual path and yet married Theresa knowing of her Ascension Center Organization and the ACE Folklife Society and ACO Club for authors, consultants, oracles. Prior to marriage and embracing the mission of getting to know life of intelligence with unidentified anomalous phenomena in research, the couple joined the research team for the Center of UFO Studies and joined Stanton T. Friedman for sharing open-source intelligence and writing books in soft disclosure beginning for the Reagan administration era in 1994. Both Thomas and Theresa had prior military service, 1980 to 1993. Theresa was Department of Defense, Department of Navy, and Office of Personnel Management as a GS. TJ became a 4x10 rehire after returning from out of country in 1984 and her prior training from May 10, 1967, with ACIR, NASA. TJ was previously married to Stephen Lee Parrish, NASA employee, as a direct hire in 1968 by Chris Kraft, director at the time of NASA. The story of the "Smoking Man," like the X-Files script writing in the beginning of Dr. Richard Allen Miller. Steve and Theresa were recruited in May 1967 and background checks began in high school where they met in Houston, Texas. TJ chose to work in law enforcement and graduated with Dean's Honor Roll at Alvin Community College and then went to University of Alabama in Birmingham when she again was hired to do investigative reports. Her associate James E. Posey trained her with Tuscaloosa Fire College training certification in arson, fraud, subrogation in insurance cases, and began her FBI cases involvement. From there she began her own company as ACIR Assured Confidential Investigative Reports, where she was once again interviewed by the Men in Black, MIB. After FPO New York, and training of Stock Market and Kodak in Rochester, New York, TJ had her major UFO sighting with her 4 daughters in the summer of 1983. From there was returned to work for Percy Foreman and Newton B. Schwartz Sr., attorneys at law in Houston, Texas. Passport ready from 1984 through 1994. After 2 full books of stamps, she moved to Hawaii for U.S. Navy 1988 to 1994 after being a rehire and taking the ASVAB and DLAB test in MEPS Houston, Texas, and again in Fort Hood, Texas 10 years later in 1994. At that time, she was assigned to OTRCDL over-the-road truck driver position for military clearance, and hazmat loads. She also pulled government such as U.S. Treasury loads Denver to California and government contract loads including Microsoft and to Area 51, Nevada. 1994 to 2004. Then by April 2004, began contract publishing work as #124,124,038 terajoules Morris ACIR, and reapplied April 2018 as American Communications Online, moving to Gulf Breeze, Florida, USA in 2016, after a trip to Chicago for Marta Thomas for consulting on Global Pyramid Conference and being a paranormal speaker at Mid-South Conference, at the Memphis Hilton in Tennessee. Stanton T. Friedman had been a speaker for Mid-South Conference, and TJ and Tom stayed in contact with Stan 2006 through his death. TJ met President Reagan, President Bush, Secret Service agents, J. Allen Hynek. Joseph Allen Hynek was an American astronomer, professor, and ufologist. He is perhaps best remembered for his UFO research. Hynek acted as scientific advisor to UFO studies undertaken by the U.S. Air Force under 3 projects: Project Sign, Project Grudge and Project Blue Book. Wikipedia. Born May 1, 1910, Chicago. Died April 27, 1986, Scottsdale, AZ, and others in the UFO field of research. Being talented, TJ was open about her prior visitations of ET and her psychic abilities. After appearing in the Houston Chronicle newspaper with her graduating class at James Madison and as a Houston Spinnerets as Ginger Thurmond going to Washington, D.C. in May 1967, it was written that Ginger, TJ, would be noticed. She was a twirler of 2 batons, knives, and fire batons at her school football games in Houston, Texas 1966-1967. And was asked then if she would work for our government by Men in Black. TJ and Steve were actively recruited by the Smoking Man, who was reported later to be interested in intelligent young people. J. Allen Hynek escorted TJ on a jet in between Lowry Air Force Base and Chicago O'Hare and to California, being briefed and being recruited into a new project, and Dr. Hynek asked TJ to be involved and to keep his work going in investigations of US UFOs. This is interesting, being that the conscious critical mass mind, psychic ESP and tarot card reading and interacting with the Stargate Project and Pegasus Project were mentioned among others, including Rainbow and Smoking Gun. TJ met the Smoking Man, and how she feels was destined to meet with Dr. Richard Allen Miller, Ph.D. later in life about 2012 to 2021. Someone cooked up some erroneous statements on us, but I am suing them for it and turning it over to the FBI for criminal investigation, since it was from materials stolen from our files. Carl Schleicher, 1999. Theresa J Morris shares her ACO Press Club with her Friends of T.J. Morris Agency. TJ is now a host for 9 years of archiving radio shows, YouTube video trailers, and podcasts for 9 years. TJ's husband died and told her to wait until he died before sharing his full story of what he knew of MIB on and off planet. TJ knew the books he helped write were done so with a fiction type of story, so the people who read the book in 2007 to 2009 would only think the story was based on fiction. Now, that TJ is part of the Miller and Morris Associates in publishing books. Dr. Richard Allen Miller may help rebuild the future for people who worked in ESP and metaphysics, and how our former projects were not as classified as we may like to think. The nuclear word and national security was usually used around Area 51, while other secrets of aliens, ET Creel, and people with psychic abilities and belief in working with ET was a strategy not rare among people working with DOA, and DON. Noted that MUFON was involved due to John Lear and Bob Lazar in 1989. TJ and Tom were in and out of Vegas airports during that time, so the timeline for making ET and UFOs public as in disclosure in 2021 will be soft disclosure in these books and interviews. All the past dots will come together for a new thread for critical mass consciousness. This is the path we are on after August 31, 2021, while news is about the US military and American citizens leaving out of Afghanistan. We will learn to work together for future stories as Miller and Morris. Hired to work together August 19, 2021, with videos for updates. We are aware our video making software company Vimeo of 7 men in Australia we were using is purchased by GoDaddy. GoDaddy, with former Net Solutions, and 2003 Starfield Technologies and Wild West, have been third-party contractors with TJ Morris ACIR and TJ Morris Publishing Agency. Known best for Psychic Network, Ascension Center, and as author of Knowing Cosmology, Ascension Age on Amazon. Miller and Morris Associates Productions.